Welcome, paranormal enthusiasts, to this week's episode of We're Creepin' It Reel, here on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, where everyone comes for their paranormal fix. Real people, real stories, in real time. So glad you could join us for some ghostly gab. I'm your host, Eleanor Wagner. As always, I appreciate you hitting the subscribe tab, follow button, or show app on your podcast of choice. Everybody give a hello shout out to our coast to coast techie, Chris Mabry. He'll be working hard tonight to help us run smoothly. Got some great news, too. Coast to Coast Entertainment Network is now on Amazon. That's right. If you, as a listener, have this wonderful app, you can watch all Coast to Coast's live programming directly from the app, and you can even go back and watch previous episodes. If you don't already have the app, I suggest you go and get it. But wait until after tonight's show because you don't want to miss what I have in store for you. I apologize for the delay. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back on track. I'm so excited to introduce today's guests. They are two members from the Bozeman Paranormal Society out of Bozeman, Montana. Please join me in welcoming Elise Adams and James Jones.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, guys. Good to have you. Better later than not at all, right?
That's the truth.
For the listeners that are tuning in for the first time, what I like to do with my guests is have them discuss three specific investigations of theirs that warranted substantial evidence and to share the footage from those investigations with you, the audience. Elise sent over Chico Hot Springs in Prey, Montana. Established in 1900, Chico Hot Springs is rooted in American Western legends. We have a picture that Chris is going to put up for us from back in the day. And picture credits go to the Chico Hot Springs website. A Victorian lady by the name of Percy Matheson Knowles and her husband William E. Knowles had a vision when they opened Chico Warm Springs Hotel. And we're going to show a picture of the people in the water too at the hot springs. Though at first it catered to seekers who mined gold claims in the nearby Emigrant Gulch, it eventually grew to where it became a destination for travelers from Livingston and those en route to Yellowstone National Park. There we go. That's July 4th, 1912, that picture of them in the water. So, Elise, Chico Hot Springs is haunted, huh?
Yes, it's fairly haunted. They used it for tuberculosis for a very long time. The theory is being in a higher elevation, it really helps with the tuberculosis. I'm pretty sure the hot springs as well with the and whatnot. But then later on, they ended up moving it into a hotel. Well, Percy is apparently the most like notorious spirit in the hot springs. She was the owner with her husband, and then later on was moved to a mental institute facility called Warm Springs, Montana. So, speaking of, you were calling it Warm Springs, there really is a Warm Springs. But it's so crazy because we actually had an experience with Percy while I was doing this investigation. All the employees love it when I bring evidence and I show it prior before I do an investigation. So usually I'll take several hours and days with my members and whatnot going through evidence. And when we went through the evidence and caught this wonderful picture, when you guys show it, I'll explain more of it. What was when I brought it in, there's a story behind this. I was showing the evidence, and my member Emma, who's a little bit sensitive, I think she's a little bit more sensitive now, she was having a communication with Percy while I was sitting there doing this presenting. And I was like, started to talk about like the history of telling her that she went to Warm Springs because she was mentally ill. Well, I got interrupted by Emma saying, "No, she didn't. This woman is telling me that she went to Warm Springs because she was an alcoholic and she really wanted you to know that." And I'm all like,
Oh,
yeah, so and then back in the day, you would consider being kind of an alcoholic being part of your mental illness. Well, it's
mm-hmm.
still considered a mental illness, but and that they would think about treating it at a facility like Warm Springs. So that was kind of a fun kind of experience we've had. After that,
Sure.
apparently, I'm not friends with this ghost anytime for the future.
She
But
didn't like what you said, right?
she definitely did not like what I said. I don't think
Uh-huh.
I mean, we go there quite often. Funny, I was supposed to go there yesterday. Because
Oh,
they
okay.
have a couple other buildings that the owners over there wanted us to go check out, new area, but it snowed so much. Like we've been having nothing but snow. So usually with that we have to move it to a later date like spring. But
Sure.
anyways, we've had so many experiences alone just in Chico. Um, one year, right when the lockdown was happening, they let us, we were the only people in that building besides the staff because nobody was staying in the hotel, nobody was at the hot springs, and we'll never get that experience ever again. But we did catch some EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. Of It was so weird. I was using my ghost box. I'm walking in that time frame around 2020 into the room, and you hear, because I always think that spirits can read your mind. So you hear like this woman going through the thing saying, "So how old is your brother?" And I have a brother. So, and I'm like, really? That was probably the most active time that we were there, was when it was completely locked down. Nobody was allowed in the building. So, but the picture that I'm going to have you guys show is super, like, one of the best pieces of evidence I've ever caught. James knows what it is because he had to help me put it up because we just ran a paranormal conference in October and he knows all about this picture. And we were just taking like just regular pictures. When sometimes my members will take them in the dark first and then do a flash view of it, because sometimes you're just catching, sometimes spirits will just show up like in the dark. So, because they're white and some of them are misty and whatnot. Well, he's taking a picture, and next to it is we have is a device called a Wonder Box. So, and it puts off like a blue glow on one side. It's our smaller version of it. So a Wonder Box is it uses, and James can probably elaborate with this more before I start to go into it because I am terrible at explaining
Well,
this.
why don't you brought a clip of a sound that was explainable, that the
Yeah, let's
person
put that one
speaking
on
about.
first. And then I can explain, I could talk about that because that was the weirdest also experience. No one was in same room, Percy's room. This is Percy's room. That's supposed to active room apparently. Um the whole third floor is. Right now they're using it for employee use until they can get them housing. But
Mm-hmm.
the third floor, Percy's room, which I think is 302, and we were in there and we all left, and you can hear us kind of off in the distance because they had their bathrooms separate. It was kind of like, treating it like it was a hospital at one point. So think about it, you have to have the bathroom kind of separate from the patient's room, so you have to
Mm-hmm.
walk to the bathroom. So anyways, so you hear us off in the corner talking to something in the bathroom that's separate from this room, and we have the door closed. And I have just a basic video camera in that room. And the sound, which I rather have you guys listen to first, is so creepy because I always have to hear these things first. It seems to be I'm cursed to get all the creepy stuff. No one else, when we go through evidence, is like, this is boring. I'm like, and then when I go through it, it's like, what in the world was that? That why am I the one that has to hear this first? So,
All right, so
anyways,
we'll let Chris run that for us now.
in the sound of like I don't know what that is. No, everybody goes
At
maybe
first,
it was key,
at first I thought it was like keys jingling, like
and
somebody
then
was
a lot of
jangling
people think it's like some kind of chain. And I'm like, why would there be a chain? I'm all like,
yeah,
I don't know. And then I think it my a lot of theories is it has to be like almost like a janitor with lots of keys, uh,
yeah.
or a maintenance person, which makes sense if that is the spirit of somebody like that.
I,
Yeah.
I,
Because
I
yeah,
said the same thing to her when she called me and told me to analyze the frequency and see what I thought it was. I said it sounds like keys.
Yeah, that's my first impression too, James. Yeah. But did you have any kind of like recorders going other than the video that you can get like an EVP? Because sometimes
yes,
you'll get
yes,
and
I
nothing,
put
huh?
like multiple. James knows. I always put multiple things in the room, and there was also a
Mm.
voice recorder in there, and it didn't catch that at all.
No.
Mm.
We were able
Complete.
to
Interesting.
compare multiple different frequencies and multiple recordings and utilize that in frequency analyzation. And they should have shown up on all of them, but it only shows up on one. And yeah, weird.
Wow. Pretty cool. Now the picture, he's going to put the picture of the Chico anomaly up too, and then you can explain that while the picture's up. He's going to get ready to
Okay.
put that up next. There we go.
Good. So this picture, I took. My member John, took multiple pictures. He also we compared it. We were watching it on my TV at the time, and we were just kind of going through pictures. And he goes, "Go back, go back." And we like looked at this picture. I think I even had it online at the time going through because some of my members, like James and I, will all go through stuff online. And we were looking at this, and we're like, what is that? Does that look like a face? And it looks like a young girl's, I'm assuming, face. So Percy was not a young girl. But there is a theory out there, and I haven't ran into her very much, is there's a 14 or 12-year-old girl that apparently haunts the building. There's no like physical evidence of her. There's very little history that you can find about that. So we would have to go back, of course, like we always do, multiple times. The blue light next to it is the Wonder Box, which I was explaining earlier. So,
Okay.
and that James can explain more. That is you, James, now.
Oh, okay. Well, a Wonder Box, if you're not familiar with Wonder Boxes, we're all familiar with ghost boxes, which utilize radio frequency scanning the white noise within that aspects between channels and channels. It's believed that spirits actually communicate well in white noise. What a Wonder Box does is it's a device that basically cleans up that frequency. It utilizes gates, reverbs, and equalization to clean up the frequency so that essentially the spirits will have a cleaner channel or an easier highway to communicate with you because it's not trying to compete with all this other interference. And so a Wonder Box is it's kind of like a filter.
So
I
next
think
to
it's
that picture of that little girl, the little blue light, it's the Wonder Box sitting on the bed. So this is on a bed. So
Yeah.
this is like we went
I believe
through
that's the light
pictures
from the
and
gate unit.
yeah. And we went through pictures and pictures. I even went and okay, I had a picture of him taking a picture from one side of the area. We analyzed and look at that. We had a picture of the side of my face, and we're like, there's fine face. So I have no idea what that is. But it just looks like a little girl almost like kneeling on the bed. Like she's like kneeling really close to
hmm
the maybe trying to give us answers through the Wonder Box.
maybe she was just curious about the blue light in the blue wonder box, and
Yeah.
she was curious as to what it was. I love how we can find those things in our pictures when we take them. I mean, sometimes I usually take them in succession. I'll do like 1, 2, 3, and oftentimes I'll have something not in one, but in two, and not in three, or a part of it in one, and the whole in two, and nothing in three. And I mean, it takes a lot of patience to sit there and go through all these dark pictures that I have like 100 of them at the end of the night, but it really warrants when it warrants a really great picture. It just makes you very excited about it.
Yeah, and that made me super excited. That was a find from last year. Our winter time, that's what it is going through evidence since it gives
Going through
people.
evidence and making podcasts.
Yeah, and
Yes,
making podcasts.
there
We
you
don't get
go.
to make podcasts every month. We have to, I mean, during the summertime, we're busy until of October. So winter on, like now, November on, we're usually doing podcasts.
Now, you did an investigation at the Livingston Depot in Livingston, Montana, and Chris is going to put a photo of the building up there. Picture credit to Wayne Fry on that one. The historic Livingston Depot was built in 1902 as the Northern Pacific Railroad's original launching point for travel to Yellowstone National Park. The depot was donated to the city of Livingston in 1985 after the Northern Pacific used it for its offices for a while. He's going to put up another picture which goes credit to Farish Jackson. That's the whole aerial part of it. After a total renovation 2 years later, it was opened under the Livingston Depot Foundation, a member based nonprofit organization dedicated to its preservation. So, how did you all manage to get in there for an investigation? What happened while you were there?
Well, one, it's an event center now. They just usually rent it out for events. There was a guy that used to be the event coordinator for that. He's now retired. Eventually we'll go back. We've been there like 7 million times. But so this had to be like we've been there like so many times. Like I've had like the like EVPs from like I always think it's crazy because I think sometimes we catch EVPs of residual hauntings.
Hmm,
So
that happens.
because which makes sense. Because one time I was going I was had the ghost box running and then I heard over I was like, so how many are here? And it said 45 on there,
Oh,
some kind of ridiculous number. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, how many are here now? Two. Like all of a sudden, like spirits just went onto a train. And then I've had complete conversations with a man that was going to a place called Bannock, Montana, which was the first territorial capital here in Montana. And which is crazy because now you wouldn't, I'm pretty sure they were really just taking a train to Dillon, Montana, and then taking horseback to Bannock. But it's just crazy because, we would get answers like that, and you're just like, wow, this brings back so much history. So they ended up losing that train depot a little bit after the World War II, and then they started to make it into an event center. But some of the pictures and things that we've caught were just very fascinating. I even caught a man saying "all aboard" up in the attic,
yeah.
and then 2 years ago, I'm just sitting there and my member Cindy I was just sitting on this chair up in the attic, and the attic's pretty cold anyways, especially when we go in the fall. And we're just sitting there and she's taking the thermal imaging camera around me. And it just looks colder around me, like I'm unfortunately sitting in somebody's chair or something, or on them. I don't know. But so it's just we caught like weird cold anomalies. Um, we've also I just think we mostly catch I think more residual hauntings there than we've had like physical conversations with people. Like I think that really total there has to only be two entities there all the time, like like apparitions. They've seen a man on the third floor pacing back and forth And he looks like he's a conductor of sorts because he's like always in an outfit of that kind. Um, and they've seen shadow figures in areas where it's locked. And so up on this like second floor, there's entrances that they use now just for putting out museum related things. Because sometimes they'll just put museum stuff out if it's not being used as an event. And then I think these were used more for like little waiting rooms and stuff like that. And we looked across the way at my vice president, Joshua, who's completely deaf. So was
Oh,
looking across the way.
Mike Mesmer told me about him. He says it's pretty amazing that he's
He is
deaf,
amazing. And
and
he
that
looked,
how he senses it. Yeah.
and he does, and he gets touched all the time, like all the time. He looked
Wow.
across the way one time and he saw like a complete, like full body shadow go across the way where it looks like, because I think these areas were used for like either mate putting like for employees or something, or they were used for waiting rooms. Like you can't, if there's not enough waiting rooms down below, there's other waiting rooms upstairs. um
Mm.
he was looking across, and this place is usually pretty dark, and looks across and sees a shadow go across the way. We tried to go over there. Maybe one of our members went over there, and it's completely locked off because they were
Ah.
putting like museum memorabilia over there until they could figure out a place to put it. So, just a fascinating place. So much history, just alone. I even, because I'm a caregiver, I used to even take care of a man that used to be a janitor for that building when it was a place, and until he died. So, and it was just crazy how much history goes into that. The picture I'm probably going to have you show is one of
The
my
strange,
second best pieces of evidence.
the strange
So
anomaly. It's the blue one with the yellow
that
line,
we've never
presumably.
caught anything else on the thermal imaging camera. Really, we don't really catch a whole lot on the thermal imaging camera. So this picture, so the yellow, let's explain that. So you know how it's a little hotter over there? That's the
Mm-hmm.
boiler room.
Oh, okay.
So we can't figure this out. So as you can tell, it looks like there's like a little head and kind of a body, and then we start to lose the legs at the bottom. Well, I start to walk over there to see if I could debunk it while they're just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels colder in that area. It's kind of weird. And I walk back and it's still sitting there. Well, when they start to walk forward with the thermal, it completely disappears when they started to get closer.
Wow.
So we can't, and to this day, the many times I've been to the Livingston Depot, I'm pretty sure we'll be going back again. Um, is every time I walk forward or try to look that way with the thermal, it never makes the shape anymore. And there is a window behind him, or I don't know, the person. Um, but as you can tell, it's not even radiating any cold from that anyways, because there's so much from the boiler room, and the boiler room's door was open at the time too.
Mm.
So we have no idea. My assumption, it could be just the conductor that's roaming around, because this is the third floor. So just letting you know, this is where they put all the storage stuff. There's a big one on storage up there. And then there's offices on the other side. There's like a doorway. One side's like the storage. This is where we were standing by storage. And then behind the other door, there was just offices. So this is where they've seen more of the activity up there, and also in the attic.
I see a face above the left of the yellow light of a male with a mustache looking at us.
I don't see that at all, but I
Yeah,
I
believe
I'll
see
have to.
it too. I was just about to say you need to resend this back to me.
I
Yeah,
can't even see that. I
and
also have the crappiest.
if you try to picture a conductor's uniform, it could very possibly be him because it almost looks like a suit that he's wearing of some sort. But I can circle the face and send it back to you
Yeah, definitely
after the show. Yeah, I can
because
see.
I'm on
He's
the
actually
crappiest computer.
he may even be balding. I mean, he's got a very big forehead, but he may be balding also.
Yeah, I'm glad you're
But I
noticing that too because I just noticed
hmm
that, and yeah,
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So
Can you've
I'll
seen
send.
this picture so many times, James? You had to even
At
post it
least
up.
100 times. Didn't notice it until now.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he knows that he's on a show now, and he wants to make sure we see that he's there.
Yeah, baby. He seemed like the energy in there is so good though. Like I don't feel anything negative in that place because I'm an empath, so I feel energies. And there that place just felt like sometimes you would feel overwhelmed because you're around all those people, like there's so much going on. And then just
Yeah.
sound and then you would be in like energy where you're around like this conductor has great energy. He's a nice guy. So but
I'm
yeah,
empathic. I'm
you'll have to
empathic too,
circle and
so
send that to me.
I will. So I know exactly what you mean about feeling like if something's good or if it's bad and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know you investigated the old Deer Lodge prison in
Oh,
Deer
this is
Lodge,
James's.
Montana.
Oh
And
joy.
I have picture credits to the old Montana prison and auto museum website. Though in the West Country the mining heritage was rich in gold, the area around Deer Lodge was settled by ranchers. And we have a picture of the inside of the prison too from the website. As the fur trade died out in the 1840s, livestock trade picked up around the Oregon Trail and led to the settlement of Deer Lodge Valley. And we have another picture which goes credit to Debbie Anderson Eames of the outside. The first prison was built in Deer Lodge. The worst criminals were housed here permanently. And of course, it's haunted, right, Elise?
Of, of course, it's haunted.
It's
Even
very fun.
this might be something I'll let James talk about a little bit more, and then I'll go and tell you about my experience with the picture because
Okay.
you want to know this is he used to do a fake haunted house at this place.
Oh,
So,
okay.
and I rather him because he's had more experiences than I have. So, okay, James.
Do
All right.
tell, James.
Well, small background. I'm a master audio engineer and also a magician, and so we
Mm-hmm.
got hired to do a. We did for 10 years. We did the Territorial Prison Haunted House down there, and I did a lot of other stuff. I'm also a historian, so I've been down there a lot. And as you said, it was built in the 1800s. The prison was built in 1871. Um, it harvested some of the biggest names and criminals, including there was a riot at the prison that happened around after 1960, and the person that actually started this riot was actually taken from Alcatraz to this prison because he was too much trouble to hold in Alcatraz.
Hmm.
So think about that. Um, the building is incredibly creepy by itself, and I welcome everybody to go check it out. Our cruise, I guess one of the best stories is there's an area called Maximum Security. It's on the side, on I believe the west side wall, and I've been setting up gear and all this stuff, getting this ready for this haunted house that's going to be running for about 2 weeks. And so, in maximum security, when you're in a maximum security cell, you walk in, you're going to pass two to three isolation cells, and then you're going to come to what's known as a guard's cage. And a guard's cage is basically, as it sounds, it's kind of like this little cage, and the guard would sit there and he would register you and do all that other stuff and make sure your paperwork was all ready before they put you into the cell. We utilize these all the time throughout the building of the prison because you could store gear and lock it up and it wouldn't be touched. So we were doing a gig and it was about 12 o'clock and I was putting security cameras, which is what we usually kept in maximum security, into these little guard cages. And the procedure that we did, because we were training ourselves every year to lock everything up so people wouldn't touch stuff, is you would take a chain and you would lock it around the two bars that hold the gate opening up to the guard's cage, and you'd lock it with a lock every time you left that room. So at this point, there were 3 people in the building and 3 people with keys. I had keys at the time. A partner of mine by the name of Eric, he had a set of keys, and, well, the facilities director had a key. The facilities director was currently in the Butte Walmart, 35 miles away, picking up gear that I had forgotten to bring, and some sandwiches and stuff for the rest of the crew. My buddy Eric, at the time, he was over in Cell Block, which is on the other side of the prison complex. So I put up my flat screen TVs, I get them all ready done, and I go and I lock the cages. I go back to go get some cables. And I was away from the prison's maximum security for roughly 3 minutes. I met up with Eric. I gave him some cables. He went back into Cell Block. By the time I was able to walk back into the maximum security, every single one of my security screens were smashed in, as if something had punched it with a fist.
Wow.
Now, the fun fact is, this happened while the gates were, all the security, the gates in the corral were still locked.
Wow.
And I, at the time, had the only access key to that lock.
Which is
So,
just crazy.
It's creepy. When we at last went down to the prison, we actually had a metal pipe thrown at us.
Wow.
From
They don't
above.
want you there. They don't want you there.
So the building, as I told the crew when we first entered, I said, here's the deal. If a small rock is thrown at you, this is not a big deal. If something bigger is thrown at you, come and get me immediately, because you're dealing with a guy named Jake Mawkins. And Jake Mawkins, as our joke in the haunted house was, it was Jake from State Farm, and he's irritated about the insurance policy, which was enough to keep my crew, sane and happy when really weird things like fog machines that were on security tabs would go flying from the top cell block, even though it was locked and nobody was up there. Or, in this case, pipes would be thrown at you.
Did anybody ever get any of that on video?
We have some stuff, like I have it on security cameras. Like for the security camera, all you see is we have a security camera that's aimed at our screens, and all you get to see is the screens just go
Oh boy.
in a locked cage, which is creepy.
Yeah.
We videotaped some of the stuff, but after 8 years, we just saw all the weirdest stuff.
I'll bet.
But yeah, it's an interesting place. You would occasionally hear gunshots.
Oh yeah, huh? That's
like
that's
literally
kind
from the center of the room. You'd be sitting in the courtyard and you would just hear gunshots that literally would come from like the cell block.
I imagine that would probably be residual energy.
Yeah.
Residual haunting. Yeah. Wow.
And also maximum security, and we've been trying to figure out this. We've worked with the crews there, and even the staff that works there will tell you maximum security prison smells like rotting flesh on random days. But they don't know why, and they've been trying to figure out why for 12 years.
That's not good.
Yeah, it was a very interesting thing. And so every time it would smell bad, we would know that if it was smelling bad, and we'd always expect it to smell bad in that room, we just use that as part of our haunted house. Because if it's going to smell creepy, you might as well put like a dead body in there. See.
Sure. Yeah.
Use it to your advantage.
Visual to match the scent. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
I have a story for that because two different people there. So there's apparently a low-level demon inside of maximum security, and I had two different psychic friends, completely two different times. They don't even know each other. Tell me the description of the demon. So, and the first one is our personal person that helps clear spirits for us and do other, because we're a group that loves to do that. We'll like go clear spirits and out of people's homes and stuff. Well, her name's Janet Burke. So that's her job in life. She just helps people out with psychic things and doing also Reiki. Well, she came with us one day to the Deer Lodge old prison, and she went into maximum security, and she goes, you know why it smells like this in here? There is a bat-like creature that's a low-level demon that loves the smell of rotten corpse. And he loves to smell like that. And he's like, and then when it disappeared, he's like, yeah, he's gone now. And it's always like he'll be there and then not.
Yeah,
So,
it would come
yeah.
and go.
And then
It was the weirdest thing.
And fast forward, he comes and goes. And then fast forward, I had another friend that's also a psychic medium, Shannon. She's really a medium. So she came in here with us, and we were hosting an event that time. So we were having complete strangers with us the whole time. And I just let my member, if I'm running an event, then I always tell members, just because I'm running an event doesn't mean you have to run the event. You guys can enjoy the building for free. You can even go off by yourself. It's just, yeah. So anyways, we're in maximum security and I'm like entertaining people, and it smells like corpse in there at that time. And she describes the same creature Janet just saw. So in the same cell, and it's always in the same cell, which is like, there's like a corner cell in maximum security, and that he loves to like hit. The creature likes to sit in, and it always like describes it to the bat like creature, and it looks like a bat. It's like Mothman, but a bat. And it was like creepy because I'm like, wait, you've never met Janet before, but you know that it's in here. So now I really know that that's what's in maximum security. So, but yeah.
Their stories corroborate with one another. Well, you brought a cool picture with you, and Chris is going to put it up, and then you can explain it to the audience.
Yes, and that is a big.
Yeah.
So
tell us what's happening here.
This picture is great. So this is an app. We are only a group for 2 years at this point. So I'm a 10-year-old group, by the way. This is over by Turkey Pete cell. So a little backstory about Turkey Pete. He was an inmate here at the Deer Lodge Old Prison, and he murdered people. So then he was sentenced to Deer Lodge Old Prison. Well, his mental state wasn't that great, so they ended up having him help pretty much process the turkeys, because they had turkeys and chickens and whatnot. A little farm on the property, and he was supposed to be the one that ends up processing the turkeys. So his nickname ended up becoming Turkey Pete. Well, he had a pretty fancy cell. So this is his cell that we're looking at. And so the backstory is, I was walking one way down the cell block, and my other member was coming the opposite direction. So he was already down at the bottom, and I was going the opposite direction, and he was coming back. So I saw this entity inside the cell. So I thought he was a mannequin. So there's several mannequins throughout the prison to show, jobs and whatnot and throughout the prison. So I thought he was a mannequin saying, hey, this is Turkey Pete. Well, nope, he wasn't. I was just taking pictures with this app, just testing it out, because we didn't have a whole lot of equipment at the time, so might as well test out apps, right? So we come back around, and I meet up with my member, and I look into his cell, and he's no longer in there. So, and I go and look out towards my member and say, hey, was there somebody in here? And then he goes, no, there was nobody in here. Then I went through the evidence, and I caught this face in the picture. So there is 2 pictures of paintings of Turkey Pete in there, but it's off, as you can tell, off in the corner almost. And you could kind of see that his collar, and he kind of starts to dissipate down by like his shoulders. And I was just like, oh my God, I caught this guy that I completely saw. So I'm assuming it was Turkey Pete, because then I ended up looking at a picture of Turkey Pete, and his
Good.
hairline is to the T. So, and I'm all like, well, hello, Mr. Turkey Pete, that still apparently haunts. Fun fact is Turkey Pete was the only funeral they ever had on the property. So pretty much it's just apparently he still is hurting and processing turkey.
Well, there's a little bit more backstory on Turkey Pete. So not only was Turkey Pete a little insane, but also, so at the time the prison had a policy that if you were delusional, they would entertain your delusions as long as it did not kind of bother the prison's processes.
Mm-hmm.
So Turkey Pete, at a certain point, was convinced that he owned the prison.
Oh,
and so
okay.
the prison actually would hand him out. They'd have him print out fake checks in the printing hall where they did all the printing and stuff. And Turkey Pete would pay the guards, and he would pay the warden, and he would pay all this, and they would give him books. And to keep him entertained, they would give him books, and he would file all the prison's taxes and their expenses and do all the bookkeeping and all that other stuff in this fake booklet that they just let him have. And Turkey Pete spent the entire time believing that he literally was the owner of the prison. And that is one of the reasons why he became one of the favorites, and they did the funeral for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did he die of just old age, or?
He just died of old age.
Yeah. He lived a pretty old life too. I think he died in his 80s. So
I believe it was 82.
We did. I don't personally like going to Deer Lodge Prison, because I'm not one of those. We're not one of those ghost hunting groups that like to go chase negative things. So
that's my department.
And it just has the energy. But every other year, unless my other members want to make events to go do their own thing, but every other year around the springtime, we always go back, and we don't mind. It's as spooky during the day as it is at night. You'll see things, I always say, during the day and night.
You will.
Yes.
The night was kind of spooky when they accidentally locked me in the building overnight. That was sucky.
Oh, I imagine that would be.
They had a new maintenance guy, and they told the maintenance guy, they told us, when you're done, lock up, because you're going to be here till 2 a.m. anyway, because we're always resetting things and redoing distros. And they had a new guy, and they told the new guy over and over again, right once you're done, turn everything off and lock the gates. Well, that's exactly what he did, but he didn't know. Nobody bothered to tell him that we were going to be there till 2 a.m. So we get to the main gates and go, oh God. Now, I thought it was cool as everything, but the rest of the crew thought it was kind of terrifying.
You had to stay there all night. Oh boy, oh boy.
Yep.
That was an adventure. Well, you were telling me that you collaborated on an investigation with the well-renowned magician and paranormal investigator Michael Mesmer. I love Michael. I've had him on each of my podcasts in the past.
Michael is a wonderful guy.
A wonderful person. And you all investigated the Bannock ghost town together. I recall discussing some of what went on there with him during our interview together. For the listeners, Bannock Ghost Town in Montana is a deserted town with the Old West feel. Picture credit to Vanessa Middlehawk. It's the location of Montana's first gold discovery in 1862, which set off a massive gold rush that escalated Bannock's population to over 3,000 in 1863. Next picture is credited to Chaz Hayworth. But as the value of gold diminished over time, so did the prosperity and population of Bannock, eventually leaving it a ghost town and quite literally haunted. This next picture is of the inside of a saloon, and it's credited to Jesse or JP. Tell me about this wonderful collaboration between you guys. What all happened?
So, Michael sometimes it comes and visits me every now and again, especially if he's doing like a show. So 1 year, like 2 years ago, he was like, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. We should do an investigation together." And funny thing is, I met him through an investigation because he joined one of my investigations out in Butte, Montana, which was Clark Chateau. Um, and so we ended up, deciding to be friends and whatnot. You're going to notice that I know way too many magicians since apparently my tech manager is also a magician.
Yep.
But anyways, we were ended up going out to kind of like the saloon area, the place that you were just showing. So this location, and I ended up putting out one of my video cameras. I love using what they call a flip video camera. I just love action cameras. They capture really good audio. Um, and I've caught my best evidence on an action camera, like a flip video camera. Well, I was putting the camera kind of towards the end of the bar area, kind of towards this wall that's on the far end here. And I was facing it towards the door, and it was a little windy, but not so bad that it should capture the door to open. And we've tried to debunk this a couple times and whatnot. And well, anyways, we're sitting there and doing a session with Michael Mesmer, and we're just hanging out. Um, and we watched, and we're getting ready to do an EVP session. I was talking about things that have happened before, and then all of a sudden the door opens, and Michael goes, "Did you capture that?" And to his wife, and his wife's like, "No," but I said, "No, I did," because there's a camera facing
Good.
that way. And then you can kind of hear also a voice if you listen with the headphones, and it almost sounds like a woman trying. And my thought was, well, we just scared all the ghosts away from inside this building because they just left. So there's no point of doing an EVP session in here because they just left. That's what I thought. They were like, "Oh," because Bannock is my favorite place in Montana. Everybody has to go camping there every year. Pretty much James will probably nod yes. It's just like a peaceful place for me. I just feel like home. It's one of my homes pretty much. I even just meditate and even go to Bannock all the time. It is not the most haunted place in Montana. Most haunted place in Montana is Virginia City, Montana. Um, we've had crazy experiences there, but
Or the Guinness brothel.
yeah, and the Dumas brothel would probably be on the next list of that. But anyways, Bannock is kind of like a peaceful place for me. I always feel like spirits know that they're there, but they're not like chaotic, like going to Virginia City or a Deer Lodge old prison. So my thought was when we were sitting in the saloon, I was like, we watched that video happen. I'm like, well, those people decided that we were boring. Or my thought was, oh, great, that person's back. and then, and
Well, you
then,
know what? Why
yeah.
don't we let Chris run that footage for everybody to listen and
I
see?
don't think even James has seen this. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
We have multiple devices, so you have a lot of opportunity to let us know if you're here.
He's asking it.
Oh,
I don't think the wind
did you get that? Did you get that? Oh, you're
I
not
did.
looking at landscape, honey.
Remember, I have.
That was not wind.
Well, the winds are picking up weirdly.
Yeah, but that wasn't wind. That's too heavy.
And then also my video camera totally caught it.
This is crazy. We're buzzing paranormal, and we were asking if someone was here, and that door, there's wind.
That's Joshua, by the way, in the picture, where he's already on trying to debunk it. I thought it was funny because he's like, I'm like, dude, I'm like, just caught the video of the door opening.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That happened to us the other night too. We were doing an investigation in a haunted manor house, and the door opened in front of everybody. It was kind of cool. So I love when that happens.
Me
That's
too.
great. I'm glad that you caught that. That was fun.
It was
Well, we
funny
still.
because we just
I'm
didn't
sorry.
catch.
Go ahead.
I said we never captured anything after that. That's why I said that I think they just left. So yeah, but anyways,
We still have a bit of time left, so I'd like to go ahead and cover the Rialto Theater in Bozeman, Montana. The Rialto Theater, erected in 1908 as a peanut stand and then a post office and storefront, eventually became a theater in 1924, operated by Carmike Cinemas, and showed art, foreign, and locally made films, as well as host of the Bozeman Film Festival. Picture credit to the Rialto website. It was renowned for its silent film screenings. The Art Deco marquee outside brought a bit of sparkle to the downtown Bozeman. Picture credit to Tom Gurecki, too. In 1982, it was totally renovated. It had a successful run and officially closed its doors in 2005. It remained vacant for 10 years and reopened in 2018 as an event space that continues to thrive in the community. Picture credit to Christine Goulet on this one. How did you ever manage to get in there for an investigation? Like
so this is like
when is it
my
not
my
having something going on in there because it's a theater and an entertainment place? It seems like it would be hard to get in there.
which is great because I actually most of the history on there is credited by me also because I helped the Rialto reclaim their history. So that's one reason why we were hired on to do an investigation there back
Mm-hmm.
in they just opened in 2018. So it would have been like 2015 when we did an investigation there. Um, was the first time they had other owners at the time and they were trying to get the Rialto to they were doing a fundraiser for it to try to get it more to be able to make some money for it. Well, that didn't happen and they ended up selling the property, but they ended up having that investigation. We ended up going in there because they were telling us about the activity inside the building. And we were just wandering around and we had several experiences. From one of my members heard his name being called it on EVP. He's not in the group anymore. He lives in North Dakota. And I, at the time, also saw a ball of light. So I don't see spirits very much. So it's very rare. And I saw a ball of light go underneath us, and then behind me, my member felt cold right away, like afterwards, like it came up on the stage or something. Well, the owners originally saw shadow figures in the basement, which you can't get into anymore. We did in 2015, and then up on the top floor used to be apartments and ballrooms for a while, and they would see and hear things up there as well, like see spirits and hear sounds of all kinds. um, Fast forward 2018, we ended up telling the new owners that, hey, we would love to come back in. Well, they invited us in the month after they were opened. You know what the first thing they said to me? They told me a story of a woman that said that it's going to sound like I've run a ghost tour because I do. Anyways, he goes, hey, he was telling us that 2 weeks prior to this, a woman, like 2 weeks, actually it was 2 weeks after they were opened, that the girl, one of these girls, came up to him and said, hey, is your place haunted? And then she goes, well, we won't know until Bozeman Paranormal comes in, but I've heard that they caught evidence. She goes, why? Because when I came back from going to the bathroom because they were seeing a show, they watched the chair being open. So my theory is there was a famous opera singer named Pablo Elvira. So he ended up dying in the early 2000s. My dentist owns his house, ironically, and his son is still alive. He was a prominent person here in Bozeman, Montana. He was an opera singer in the early 90s and also in I think it was from the 70s to the late 90s. Well, he was one of those people that was like a legend of Bozeman. Even when I take people on ghost tours, I even have people go, They pretty much go, oh, I know who Pablo is if they're an older person. He used to be singing songs going up to the deli and stuff like that. Well, I also had a friend that also played music with him. Well, her husband did up at the Wilson School and whatnot. Well, this is a story prior to this because my friend Kathleen Johns came with me, and that's her husband that played music with them. She's a psychic, and she ended up coming with us in 2018. So we ended up going inside the building and we did an investigation. Her husband wanted to come, but he ended up getting sick that time for no apparent reason. It was very weird. And she came anyways. And she came, the first thing she said was yes. And you want to know what the weird thing is? I did not mention Pablo till the couple hours prior to this investigation because she asked me this. So, and she goes, that's weird because my husband got sick and he was very close friends with Pablo. So we thought that was kind of weird. So we came in, and she goes, yes, Pablo Elvira's here and he's very happy. So apparently my theory is if a spirit is happy where they are, that's where they want to be. If they don't want to be there, we should clear them out of the space. And he's very happy in the Rialto. We were sitting there and we're doing a session. And my old tech manager, Tim, was standing up on the stage, and we decided to play music of Pablo. And I felt I had more hair than this. I felt like somebody was tugging on my hair, and and Kathleen felt like her thigh was touched. So, but back in 2015, this is why I bring up Pablo, was we caught an EVP of a voice that says Pablo, Pablo, Pablo. And I think I have that EVP that I sent to you guys and whatnot.
Okay, so then we'll let Chris run that for us, that Rialto Theater clip. I don't think we're getting any sound on it.
I don't think we're getting any sound. That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think.
That's okay. Well, anyways, there was EVP. It's probably just too low, too. I don't know. Anyways, so on that video, it does say Pablo, 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 and we thought that was weird and whatnot. And then the following couple weeks later, one of my members that was with me, we were taking a walk, and she goes, "Look there's a star that says Pablo Elvira." So there's a star in front of what they called the Ellen Theater. They put a bunch of gold stars of people that were prominent in Bozeman, or they were some famous people like and whatnot. I can't think of the famous people right now. But anyways, Pablo was over there, and we were like, maybe that's who it was. Well, found out that he loved apparently being at the Rialto Theater. That was one of his favorite places. He had many shows there. It was one of his favorite shows. To this day, they still have apparently heard him. They've seen a man that with heavy boots. There's that's kind of nervous to being on the stage because of the history. So the history of this place is back in 1907. It used to be a general store / post office. So we think that he's probably tied with that as well.
Gotcha.
Kathleen thinks that there used to be also with that post office a Prohibition era related things, because she also saw a carriage like behind there with like a very scared woman trying to haul off stuff that seemed illegal off down the alleyway, which we think that post office had to be involved with the Prohibition era. So, and also they've seen a mist, they've seen the shadow figures, and it's so crazy because we have been the first and only investigators ever in that building. And that even when I take people on tours, I've had employees come out and go, "Oh, are you guys talking about Pablo?" And then I'm like, Yeah, and he goes, "Oh, he's always here." And it's so
Yeah.
funny when I take people on ghost tours. If I put the ghost box on and there's like a show going on in the background, I'm like, "Don't worry, you're not going to have any interaction with Pablo because we already know where he is. He'd rather be at the show than whatever I am doing." So,
That's funny.
and that's pretty much like the gist of the Rialto. I think
Very
that's
cool.
pretty much a haunted location.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that Michael Mesmer connected me with your paranormal team, and I've really enjoyed our conversations this evening. So, Elise, thank you. James, thank you. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody how they could find you guys um, if they want to?
Well, you can find us on either at our Facebook page, which is Bozeman Paranormal Society, or you can even find us on our website, which is bozemanparanormal.com. And we also do podcasts, which I also you can find on all of the other apps, which is just called Bozeman Paranormal Spooky Podcast. And we just talk about other paranormally things and our experiences. But anyways, and we just do a bunch of fun things. So, and we involve the community. So if you're ever in the state of Montana and want to come and join a spooky event, we're normally doing a bunch of them, and we usually do them at a reasonable price or for free. We'll take you to a cemetery and ghost towns throughout the season. So yeah.
And I see that you guys are on TikTok too.
Yep, and we're on
Yep.
TikTok. We're Bozeman Paranormal Society. I keep forgetting that it's a platform.
And if you're in the area, come and check out the Big Sky Paranormal Conference, which
Yep.
hosts of.
Yep, our second annual Big Sky Paranormal Conference will also be at Phillipsburg Theater in Phillipsburg, Montana.
And Montana's on my bucket list to go and visit.
Yes,
so
you
when I'm
guys,
there-
you'll have to. I think we have the most ghost towns in.
Tell you what, if you come down to Montana, I'll give you a private tour of the Mother Lode Theater.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna look you guys
Well,
up.
thank you.
Wish you well on your future investigations. Good to
Thank
see
you. You too.
And thank you, Techie Chris. We couldn't do it without you. If you liked listening to this week's episode and you're all into things paranormal, please check out my other show, Eleanor Wagner's Strange and Scary World podcast, out of the Paranormal UK radio network, which is available wherever you get your podcasts. I'm really excited to announce my new book, Sussex County Hauntings and Other Strange Phenomena Part 3, came out on Halloween last week. And we'll put up a picture of that cover so you could check it out. If any of you are interested in reading any of my books, you can find the links to them on my website, authoreleanorwagner.com. I write about the history of the town and location, add the paranormal story to the mix, and finish it all off with photos and evidence. And if you're looking for something unique, this Petit Itala is a 33 card system based on the 18th century Piquet deck. Offered in collaboration with Rose Moon Grotto, this is a self-published oracle deck featuring antique playing card art with cards that have multiple meanings depending on the positions and pairing. Much information can be obtained from a relatively small amount of cards. They come packaged in white tuck boxes. Electronic meanings and instructions are provided with the purchase and sell for $34.95. Anyone interested in purchasing can email me at authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. Viewers, tune in on Thursday, November 24th, when I will be interviewing paranormal investigator Jimmy West at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Stay for a while and listen as Alexander Nakarada's soundtrack takes us out. I hope you've enjoyed this little journey down my own personal nightmare alley. If you're one of those people who experiences the paranormal and has stories of your own you've been filing away over the years, I want to hear about them. And if you're a part of a paranormal investigative team, even better. I'd love to have you on my show. Got a questionable photo? Send it in. Would love to have an open discussion here amongst the professionals. Reach out to me at authoreleanorwagner@gmail.com. Enjoy our soundtrack music, Headless Horseman by Alexander Nakarada, promoted by freestockmusic.com. And remember, no ghost story is better than a real-life ghost story. Until we meet again, make sure you're creeping it real.